So this summer, I found myself in a position just to meet a ton of people and work with a ton of different people, and that's awesome. But for like the whole summer, I can't like help but wondering like this feeling of like disconnection, I guess is what I want to say. I'm not talking about like being lonely. I'm talking like when I'm around a huge group of people that I'm working with, something kind of feels off. Like something feels like it's missing. Like back in the day when you had a, you know, group of friends when it was like five or six of you and you were so close. But now it's like you could be a group of five to six people that you've worked with for months or years even, and it doesn't feel the same at all. Like, it doesn't feel like it's real. Something just feels off. That's the gonna be the point of this whole video. I'm gonna talk a little bit about just why that might be, or maybe why making connections feels so difficult. Because I feel like almost every time I go, like, on social media, everyone's talking about how they feel lonely or how they don't feel like a real connection with somebody and they want a real connection with somebody and they don't want to feel lonely. And that's something that a lot of, you know, people genuinely feel. They don't want to feel like they're disconnected with, family or friends or people they know. Even though we have all these social media apps like Instagram, TikTok now, or we have dating apps where the whole point of the dating apps is to, connect you with somebody and to help make a real connection and form a relationship with somebody. Yet dating apps really don't work. I mean, any guy can tell you dating apps don't work. I mean, it's I, you're one out of like a million as for a guy on dating apps. So finding a connection as a guy on a dating app is completely understandable and feeling like I'm not finding anything is super common and something that you shouldn't feel like you're just like, "Oh, too ugly," or, "Oh, I I'm just not good looking enough," whatever it is, like, you shouldn't feel that way because dating apps are kinda meant to be like entertainment in a way. Like, me personally, I've wanted to delete dating apps for so long because they don't really work. You get likes, you get matches, and then you kind of have this dull conversation because, now in Big 26, you have to be super impressive to, somebody to make a connection. And that's that's really hard to do. It's insanely hard to do and kind of figure out how to be able to do that because I mean like 10 years ago it used to just be like a simple hi and then all of a sudden you were in a relationship. But that's not how it works nowadays. And with all these social media apps, you know, I find myself and it's not only me, but I find myself just scrolling through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of posts, of just people I know, whether it's family or friends or people that I work with. And, in a way, it's like I'm connected to them, but really I'm not. I'm not there. I don't, feel what they're feeling or they're not telling me what they're feeling. I'm not telling them what, I'm feeling, all that sort of stuff. And, as I've gotten older, things have kind of gotten a little bit more complicated. People are getting jobs, either going back to school or in school still, you know, people my age are starting families, just like they really want to start families and are intentionally starting families. And it's kind of crazy to see, to be real honest, because, for me, it's like I don't see myself starting a family for a very long time, despite, recently turning 25. I see people who are a couple years younger than me that I went to school with, and they're starting families and they have kids and they have kids who are a couple years old, and it feels insane. And I can see that on social media, and it feels like they're a whole different person. than what, like, the person that I knew years ago, which it's it's just super complicated and everything feels really complicated, and I think the disconnection, like, feeling and maybe the loneliness feeling as well, kinda is because of, social media and dating apps, because when we get in person, we can share, like, feelings, like, how we want to, like, exactly how we want to. We share our feelings and be intentional is the way I wanna put that, but, there's times, like this summer, I felt like I cannot be myself with a lot of these people that I am working with, even I want to be myself and I want to share, all these things that are going on in my head, but I can't because I feel like I am not really connected or really know these people that I'm working with, even though we've worked together for months now and we've been, together doing tasks and all these things and working together for, months now, every single day. I feel like I still can't just be myself and share like, a thought that pops into my head. And I feel like a lot of people feel that way and are starting to feel that way, a lot more now. And it could be social media or the dating apps or whatever, that could be one problem. But I think also, just, in society today, we're kind of just becoming more aware of like, hey, something's off with this like person, or something's off with this connection that I wanted to have. I think you tend to see it a lot more in dating apps because, people expect perfection and not anybody's perfect, you know, nobody's perfect. That's the whole thing, so really when it comes down to it, I don't think there's a perfect solution. I think finding your kind of crew, the 1 or 2 people, maybe 3, 4 people that you really wanna be close with and becoming close to them is, like, a good first step. I don't know if, or y at least you don't know if these 3 or 4 people wanna feel the same exact way as you or do feel the same exact way as you, but I think that's the thing. We have to start making sure we find people who do feel the same way and find people who want to listen and find people who want to be their genuine selves, you know, and someone you can be your genuine self around as well, because that's also super important and a part of this, feeling disconnected, because the more you don't feel like yourself around someone, the more you start feeling kind of disconnected, especially around larger groups of people. It's just something that I've realized over the summer, you know? I feel like I'm really close to someone, and then the next moment it's like I hear them talking with like another group of 5 or 6 people, and it's like I don't even know this person that I was just feeling like, super comfortable around, and I thought I kinda knew what was going on with their lives. And that's exactly what I'm talking about, this feeling of, like, disconnection, one moment I feel like I know a person completely, and the next moment I don't. And this happens, also when, like, you're talking to someone and then you're sharing your like whole life story, whatever, and then the next moment you see them post something, on Instagram, and it's like, I don't know who this person is. I didn't know that they were doing that, and that feeling that something is missing in your, you know, friendship or relationship that sort of forms, and I feel like it's starting to be talked about a lot more as like time goes on, especially now over like the last year, I've seen it more and more people talking about they, don't feel like their relationships or their friendships are genuine and they feel this like, something's off with these, relationships in their lives. And, we're becoming more aware of it, which is a good thing, but at the same time, I really do feel like, you know it's becoming an issue, and it's really hard to feel that trust that you wanna like, have with someone. Obviously, trust is something that takes time to build, but, you know we obviously, are at a point in time in 2026, getting close to 2027, or at least closer, where we want things instantly, hence the name Instagram. That was stupid, but I guess I would love to know what you guys kinda think about all this and, if you guys are aware of, like, this feeling of, like, disconnection with anyone in your lives, or maybe just in general. You have this feeling of, like, disconnection with people. Maybe you don't feel the same, you know, like, on the internet as you do in person, or feel the same in person as you are on the internet, if that makes sense. Probably not. I'm just kinda rambling, but I'd love to know people's thoughts, and if you're still watching, uh, please leave a like, leave a comment to see what you're feeling, your thoughts, anything, and make sure to subscribe if you enjoyed the video, because honestly, this is just me rambling, and I think that's what's gonna be my, next couple of videos. So if you enjoyed it, there's hopefully gonna be more in the next couple days, over the next couple weeks. So this is it. Peace.